Coming up on Behind the Click. Within the European market, we're really not getting the full brunt of the AI wave in retail and pricing and commerce at the moment. So right now we look abroad to the US, you hear a lot of headlines around OpenAI's instant checkout, for example, or what Google's been doing as well. But we don't really see that here. So kind of from your perspective, because you're in this, what's actually going on over there?
I'd love to make this analogy between like autonomous driving and this autonomous shopping. And I think we are really in the very, very beginning, like level 1 or 2, like this cruise control or like even maybe Tesla's autopilot.
Okay.
That's what we're seeing, or that's what we saw during Black Friday now. But that's not really autonomous shopping, and this agentic commerce where really an agent does all the things for you, like really shopping the product in the end, that hasn't arrived at all.
So what actually did we see during Black Friday? AI shopping agents from OpenAI, Google, and Amazon are transforming how we buy, shifting decisions from humans to AI, and marking one of the biggest changes in retail since the rise of AI. Today's guest is Felix Hoffmann, one of Europe's leading voices in retail AI. He is also the CEO and co-founder of 7Learnings and previously led Zalando's global pricing algorithm. In this episode, we explore what AI-driven shopping means for consumers, why most retailers are not ready, and how decision automation will shape the future of retail. So, let's dive into the episode. Felix, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Of course, I'm really excited to have you here. And before we really dive into this topic, which I'm quite excited for because we're really talking about the future of commerce and retail and shopping as one would know it, I always wanted to start off with a little bit of a lighter topic. So we're going to do a quick rapid fire round. Are you ready for that?
Absolutely.
Okay, then we're just going to kick off with whatever comes to your mind first, yeah? Okay, so you are the co-founder and CEO of 7Learnings. So how would you describe your role in one word?
And one word, everything.
Everything.
Yes.
Fair. Okay, that's fair. And my second question to you is, as a founder, what's been the most surprising part of your journey so far?
I learned a lot about technology, also from my co-founder Martin, the CTO. Yeah, and that was that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine, especially, AI is at the core of what you're doing now these days and having to stay at the forefront with the wave and evolution. We're going to jump into that as well. I can imagine it's quite exciting, probably a bit overwhelming sometimes as well, or...
I think we so far we kept a good focus on what our role is and what we've been doing. And I think there was also always enough time to really focus on, even for me, on technical topics. I'm still doing a lot of coding myself. And I really love to do that. I have less and less time on that. But so far I think it was, we did a good job on that. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay. So then to my third question to you, what do you think has been the biggest shift in pricing over the last decade?
And pricing. Yeah, I think the shift is just starting from really like rule-based pricing to predictive pricing. And I think we dive more into that. That is the big shift. We are right in the middle of that, I would say. The big retailers, they have all migrated already, Amazon, Zalando. But I would say even 80% of the others haven't.
Wow.
Yeah.
80% of them haven't.
I would say so.
That's a large majority.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's interesting to unpack because that leads into the next question that I have for you, which is, what has been the biggest misconceptions that retailers have about pricing?
Many think it has to be this crawling and rule-based approach, right? I'm crawling my competitors and then I'm coming up with rules to lower my price to the lowest competitor price, something like that.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea in the long run for many reasons. And I think that's the biggest mistake many are making.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, it's funny enough, maybe like studying in business school, one of the things they've always said is don't get into a price war to the bottom.
Yeah.
Because at the end of it, trying to crawl back out of that is extremely challenging.
Absolutely, yeah. And you have to find other ways of kind of, making it other than just kind of doing that rule-based approach.
Okay. I'm excited to unpack that in a moment as well. So this leads to the very last question, which is kind of kicking off our conversation. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much will AI-driven pricing, or just AI in general, determine which retailers will survive in the next decade?
Yeah, I would give it a 9. I think if you are really strong, especially if you're a very strong brand, you
Yeah.
can also make it without AI pricing. Let's say you are Versace or like this kind of like super like high brand value companies. You don't need it. But if you're not, you need it
Mhm.
in the next decade.
Okay. That's quite daunting to hear. It's a high likelihood we're going to see a lot of change in the market then, just given the changes that are going to come with AI, which means there's going to be a lot of companies or retailers that are not going to be in the market anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there will be a lot more pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that kind of brings me to, where do we stand today? So I know when we were having our pre-conversation around this, we talked about the fact that within the European market, we're really not getting the full brunt of the AI wave in retail and pricing and commerce at the moment. So right now we look abroad to the US, we hear a
Yeah.
lot of headlines around OpenAI's instant checkout, for example, or what Google's been doing as well.
hmm
But we don't really see that here. So kind of from your perspective, because you're in this, what's
Yeah.
actually going on over there? What could we expect to see in Europe?
So yeah, I'd love to make this analogy between like autonomous driving
Yeah.
and this autonomous shopping, and I think we are really in the very very beginning, like level 1 or 2, like this cruise control, or like
Hmm.
even maybe Tesla's autopilot.
Okay.
That's what we're seeing, or that's what we saw during Black Friday now. Um, but that's not really autonomous shopping and this agentic commerce where really an agent does all the thing for you, like
Hmm.
really shopping the product in the end. That hasn't arrived at all.
So what actually did we see during Black Friday then?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of this customers get information through the chatbots, and then there might also be recommendations where they can buy this.
Hmm.
But of course, the whole buying and also a lot of probing still happens or has to be done by the consumer. Um, and I think that's going to change. And I think in Europe, we underestimate how much money is behind this. So I would even say, like for OpenAI, this is the only way that OpenAI can survive, basically. So if they want to survive, they have to become the number one shopping platform in the world.
Oh, wow.
That's how, yeah, because how are they otherwise going to monetize their product, right?
Or my ChatGPT subscription is not enough?
No,
Okay.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
there's not a lot of subscribers actually. There's just
Yeah.
5% of the users are subscribers,
Okay.
and then you have all the free options, right? So as soon as they say, okay, you have to subscribe, then people will go
Mm.
to Gemini.
Interesting. Okay. Sounds
Um,
like the early days
so
of
there is
Google.
like billions of money
Yeah.
for that they basically say, okay, OpenAI has to actually make this work now. And this is for me the number one way to monetize. If you become the number one marketplace for
Hmm.
e-commerce, then I think you can monetize this product. If not, they won't.
Okay.
I also see an option that they go bankrupt in next year actually,
Oh,
because I think that Google has a much better position to win this war.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think in Europe we're like super behind. We're like I don't have see anybody who is like anywhere close to become that that new shopping platform.
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting that you bring it up because there's so many elements of what you just said that I want to touch on. And when we're talking about even within Europe, and you are saying for Black Friday, we saw a level 1 or a level 2
Hmm.
form of automation, if we're using the analogy, did that apply to Europe as well, or is that more of what we saw abroad first?
Yeah, I think the Americans are a bit further because in
Okay.
some cases you can already do the shopping through
Mm-hmm.
the chatbot. I think on Walmart and on Amazon, there's some chatbots who can already do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also Google has a option already in the US, not in
Mm-hmm.
Europe. Um, but for my opinion, there's also like a more interesting part is how good actually are the chatbots in optimizing your consumer decision in the end?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there we are just getting started. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of technology still needed to really make better choices there, and it's a little bit also what I'm working on the retailer side, how to make better choices, and that has just started for the consumer side. Yeah, because now, there's some stuff coming from the models, but it's not like they have the whole breadth of all product variability already inside. And then the question is, let's say you have 100 options of different products. How do you make that choice? How do you know which of those 100 products is really the best for you?
Yeah.
That is a difficult question, and it's that has to be answered in all product categories, right? So not only for one product category, like hundreds or thousands of product categories, and this choice will be made differently and has to be made customized for you. So in that choice optimization, I think this is actually the absolute sweet spot that is very, very difficult to do.
Yeah.
By the way, it's also not really only AI. I think there will be maybe an optimization technology doing that. And that is where we see most of the development. I think there's a lot of attention on this instant checkout, but that is an easy thing to do. Yeah, you have to solve it, but that's not really the big issue. Yeah.
It's the searching and the finding. That's the bigger
because
part.
That's like just 10 seconds. Even if I have to put my data in myself, okay, it takes me 10 seconds. If somebody made the right decision, what I should buy, that is really the big thing, right?
Yeah.
That is the big thing. That's where I spend hours and hours before I'm buying a new kitchen, for example. Yeah, where do I find that best kitchen for me? That is the big question from the consumer side, and that is where all the value is in the end. And consumers will go to the place where they are helped the best, where that decision is optimized.
Yeah,
and that's and I mean, I don't see anybody in Europe who can actually compete on that end at all.
Ooh, that's kind of frightening a little, because that means inevitably then we're kind of waiting to see what ends up coming here. And I think what was interesting, I saw your post yesterday on LinkedIn, which was on December 1st, if people are listening to this and wondering when we had this conversation. And I thought it was interesting because when you did break it down into the different levels of autonomous vehicles, as you were using the analogy, when you talked about level 1, we talk about the co-pilot, so kind of asking the AI, and then it's like, okay, does this come in blue? Yeah, it gives you a few options of what color it could come in. The next level after that, you called it the orchestrator, which is then where you say, hey, could you help me find deals under 200, and then it looks for reasoning, it helps you plan a bit, helps you come up with options. Then in level 3 you had, which was the approver, which is a bit kind of how you said, eyes off the road, you say, buy the best toothpaste, and the AI fills the cart and sets up the payment, which I thought was already quite fascinating. And then you had level 4, level 5, which you called the chauffeur or full autonomy, which is then where you've got something similar to a robo-taxi. So you've got the AI notices you are out of coffee and buys it, and it negotiates a refund while you sleep, and you are out of the loop entirely. Now, as a consumer, that sounds scary. Like, it sounds great. At one part of it, I'm like, okay, I don't have to think about these things. And on the other hand, I'm like, if I'm never really looking at what the purchases are anymore, that's a whole different shopping experience that I don't think any of us are really ready for, at least when I think about this from a consumer perspective.
Yeah, but I think it was also sounding scary when beforehand, right? We had maps, right?
Yeah.
And when you were going from Berlin to Munich, you were looking at your map, going left and right, and then Google Maps came out, right? And now you were saying, okay, I just want to go to Munich, get me there. And now nobody uses maps anymore, right? So yeah, it sounds scary, but in the end, you're still in control, right? You're still you could technically say, okay, I don't want to use that technology anymore, but it will be so convenient that you will be using it. And the thing is, it will also optimize your decisions so much better than you can do it, that it will just kind of, it maximizes your results, basically, what you want to achieve for yourself. And therefore you decide on your own that you want to use it. And then as a result, you're using it. But I think for the retailers in Europe, it's like the question, like how could they manage to compete with that, right?
Exactly.
Because now that you have like really hundreds of billions of euros, or US dollars actually, in the US working on that product, basically, right? This decision optimization for consumers, really, I would put it. And I don't see anybody really that could ever like come close to win that. And that
Yeah.
actually scares me actually,
Yeah.
because that means that this product will be developed by Americans, and then they will dominate that market.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, so unpacking that fear of what you see, because that's also what I'm wondering, because on one hand, I'm curious. My question is, do most retailers actually grasp what it actually means to move from going business to consumers to business to agent? Because now all of a sudden there's an intermediary in between. And as you just said, within Europe, there is no real player that's also getting into that game as well. So what does it really truly mean for us as consumers and retailers within Europe? What can we actually expect to see? And how far are we away from getting from level 1 to 5?
I think people seriously underestimate how fast the development is going at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, because again, there is so much money in this.
Yeah.
Again, you have to imagine for OpenAI, it's the only way they survive. If they become this #1 marketplace, they survive. If not, they will go bankrupt, or somebody has to buy them, maybe Microsoft or so. Yeah. So they will really try that. And of course, Google will also try to get into that space. Amazon has to do that as well, right? So there is a lot of money in that, going in that direction. Really, like maybe 500 billion at the same time now in all these different companies, right? Yeah, I think then in Europe as a retailer, I'm working a lot with retailers and brands, right? And I see that the data readiness, for example, isn't there at all, even for our product on our end. But then, of course, these agents will also require a lot of data. Basically, you can think of it as like a communication protocol towards these agents, and everybody has to, if they want to be listed, has to offer that, because the chat doesn't want to crawl your website. It's inefficient, basically. Yeah, it's just too expensive to always crawl your website, so they want kind of database access directly because it's faster and cheaper. And if you don't offer that, you won't be listed.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to, that you can already start doing right now, and I would definitely do that already.
Yeah, and I think this is what I want to unpack with you, because actually a few weeks ago we had a guest on the podcast from the German Retail Federation, and I remember I asked what is one of the most exciting trends, and also one of the trends that scares her the most that's coming up, and she said AI agents. And the concern there was also, she brought up retailers' ability to adopt a new technology and also be ready for it. And similar to what you've just said with 80% probably not being ready, she was also saying the same thing. Most are not ready. So then the question is, how do they get ready to create such a database where some of them, I would imagine, don't even know where to get started on doing that? So how do we break that? How do you break that down?
Yeah, I think from maybe first the technology, right? How does it work, right? You have the model. I think you have to differentiate the two things, right? So the model is trained, and it also uses crawling data, but when you are making a request and you want to buy something, let's say you want to buy a race bike below 2,000 euro, then first that model, and that's kind of a communication layer that tries to understand, okay, what do you actually want? Okay, so there's a race bike, there's some filters because you don't want to spend more than 2,000, for example. And then there's some part in the middle that has nothing to do with AI, basically, is that, okay, who's actually selling race bikes below 2,000 euro, right? And this is an interesting point, and this is where this communication layer is important, because the chat doesn't want to crawl the entire, or cannot, the entire internet for this race bike now live while you are asking that question, right? So there has to be some sort of database. I think Google has a shopping graph. Basically, they already know that upfront. They have a database which is constantly updated, where they save who's selling what for which price. And they go then into that thing and kind of filter for possible products, and sources where you can buy that.
And how does a retailer get into such a database? Because that's also the question where I'm like, okay, I can put my stuff on an Excel sheet and share the data, but where am I supposed to put that data? It's not going to crawl my website for it. So
no, there is a protocol, basically. I think it's called context protocol for agents. basically, it's just kind of an open API where you constantly push your prices, your products, your descriptions, your stock level, and then that is constantly updating that graph or that database from the chatbot. And then you have basically, let's say, these 100 options. Okay, you have these 100 possible bikes and these possible sources. And then then there's a little bit more AI happening, because then actually the model is saying, okay, I know your preferences. Maybe I know what color you like. Maybe I know what brand you might like. And then I'm trying to make a choice. And this is what I meant earlier. This is the interesting part, actually. This is the most difficult part, I would say. How do you make that choice? And there's also a lot of research, I think, needs to happen on that one.
Okay.
Because if I'm making that choice well, then I'm more likely to come back to you, right? And today also the choice isn't done well at today.
why
And
do
also this whole decision graph, I mean, this database where you have all the options in that, Google is pretty far on that. I think Amazon also obviously has a lot of advancements there, but all the others still have to build this.
Yeah.
So Perplexity, for example.
Yeah, and why is that third part of decision making not working so well, or the choice aspect not going so well right now?
Mm.
Do we not understand consumer behavior? Is that the issue, or what is the
I
problem?
think it's a very difficult problem, right? I mean,
Okay.
how do you optimize that consumer decision,
Mhm.
right? It's a very personal decision, right? And each product category has different features.
Mhm.
So that race bike, maybe it's the weight of the bike, but if you buy a coffee machine, the weight isn't that important, for example, right?
Mhm.
That it might be just kind of how big is it really? That's more important there, or what does the coffee taste like? Then you need to look for reviews. So the features of the products are more like the importance is quite different by product category,
Mhm.
and that makes it tough. And that also means this API, the communication layer that communicates with the sellers, that has to be very flexible, because it has to get different types of features for each product category. Right? Sometimes it's the height and the weight. Sometimes it might be, I don't know, the color, and so has to be kind of a schema that changes by product category, and that also makes this very difficult.
Yeah, I find it interesting thinking about that, because I immediately was like, well, my social media seems to know what I like really well.
Yeah,
Like, the algorithm has my preferences down pretty well. So this is
yeah.
then an aspect that just popped into my mind of how much is now what we're going to see with agentic commerce going to overlap a bit with social commerce potentially in a way. Do
Yeah.
you see some kind of an overlap potentially happening
Yeah,
in that
absolutely.
sphere?
As like when you use
Yep.
Facebook, right, for a long time, then they are more able to know what you would be interested in,
Yep.
and therefore they can show you more interesting ads, and therefore they can make more money out of ads. It's the same thing for search today already, right? If you've been searching with Google for a very long time, they know you, and they are more able to give you more relevant results. And the same will be for that decision optimization. The more you've been using ChatGPT, the better the decision optimization will fit your actual needs. But still, I would say we are at, I don't know if you put it on a scale, we are maybe at 5% of what can happen there. And
Okay.
that I think that optimization isn't really an unsolvable problem. And it's not only, it has nothing to do with the model training. I think this can be, I think this will be a different technology. So this will be more like an optimization technology,
Okay.
which we already have for many years. So yeah. Super exciting time, actually, that
Yeah.
this is happening now. And again, I don't think we saw a lot of it right now at this Black Friday. There will be a lot more in 1 year.
Yeah.
As one aspect that I'm looking for, actually,
Yeah.
I can also see that this would make shopping more sustainable, or even drive shopping more towards like high quality products. Because what I see more and more, especially in Amazon, since you have these sponsored products, you have like bad quality products which have low purchase prices, often have more money to buy these sponsored spots on Amazon, and then they are basically ranked up and also bought more, which gives them even more money, and that kind of drives down quality constantly in the market. And I think that is also something that that could be worked against with, because as a consumer you don't really want that necessarily, but you might not know that this is a low quality product that you're buying.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I was actually thinking about when we talk about agentic commerce and using agents to kind of be the intermediary, one of the concerns that popped up into my mind is it actually is just going to bolster a few companies that have the power to sponsor themselves or to better position themselves. Because as you said, if about 80% of them are not haven't fully adopted AI yet and are not really at the forefront of what's happening, that means the few that are would most likely have a higher possibility to make sure that their products are seen, placed in a good spot, that the agents end up purchasing that. So to me, I always actually thought it would have an opposite effect. So I'm kind of curious to understand that
No,
more
I
from your
think
perspective.
there's also, yeah, I'm also trying to be optimistic, right?
Okay. It's okay. I'll be the
Yeah.
pessimistic one here.
No, but
No worries.
yeah, I think it's so I was trying to buy a belly shoe, right, for my daughter, and I was looking for a leather product, and it's really like I could not find it on Amazon at all.
Okay.
So like all the entries were like kind of fake products basically. And then you say, hey, I just want a high quality belly shoe. And then actually the chatbot can give you a place where you can buy it. It's not on Amazon in the end. So that is an example, right? And if you, so that is the thing. If you sometimes what we're doing, what as a human, what decision that we're making is not really what we want in the end.
Yeah.
If you really think about later on, you're buying a Shane product, you're buying 20 products there, but actually you throw them away half a year later. It's not really maximizing your utility function, basically. So it's actually possible that this decision optimization helps you really make better decisions also as a human, like more sustainable decisions, buying better quality products. At least I would love to think so.
Yeah.
Because
I
it
have the
helps
cheeky
you.
smile because I don't trust consumer behavior in that sense. I think there's an aspect of what we say
Yeah, but
we
it helps
want.
you filter through all this bullshit products, basically, that are just kind of scam, low quality Chinese products, which kind of break 2 months later. And the thing is that today they have a lot of money to pay for advertisement, which the high quality products they don't, because they have a higher purchase price. And therefore they kind of pollute your search when you're searching manually. But if you have this LLM world, I think they could go through that kind of noise basically and really help you make better decisions.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I'm definitely hopeful that it would go in that direction. I like that you keep the optimistic perspective because I think for me, I keep coming back down to, okay, it's a business at the end of the day. If the main business model for a company like an OpenAI is to make sure that they're like the number one commerce platform or marketplace for consumers, then there becomes an aspect of paying
there is the question of
for...
monetization, right?
Yeah,
so the question is,
exactly.
I think we have to talk about that too. Like, how will they monetize that, right? They won't monetize it through sponsoring. I think that's clear for me because, I mean, it's not yet clear, right? But it's logical for me because you want, of course, if you're trusting somebody with that decision, you want that person to be neutral, right? I mean, objective, because otherwise, I mean, if somebody else can pay that system to be in that choice, then it's not an object. It's like you hire a consultant for making a choice, right? And that consultant gets money from SAP to recommend SAP. Then, like, that is kind of driving down the value of that consulting, right? And it's the same here. So you would expect that they just take a cut of the sales there.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah. I think people are talking about 2%. I think if they're really good, they could also take more.
Okay. There's so much I want to keep diving into on that topic because I think we could definitely discuss this for days.
Yeah, that's
But there's also the aspect that I want to continue jumping into or diving into, which is the aspect for the retailers. Because like we said, majority of them have not fully adopted this technology. Here in Europe, there's no key player leading this charge or this change as well,
Yeah.
like we're seeing abroad. So they most likely are going to have to adapt to whatever is going to come from abroad that it inevitably will
I
trickle
would even say
into
it's
Europe.
probably even too late now, almost.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like maybe like very big player like Zalando could try to get into that and
Yeah.
become like this recommendation engine just for fashion, maybe. Yeah,
Mhm.
with the help of LLMs, but I don't see anybody else who can actually compete.
So what do retailers do then? So like you said, start
Yeah.
off with your data readiness and getting your model and everything together. But why is that already such a hurdle for many to get started with? And
Mm.
I'll pause there and let you already start answering that first.
Yeah. Yeah, I think data readiness isn't that great in Europe.
Yeah.
And yeah. I think that it's definitely necessary that they create this API right
Yeah.
towards the agents where they push their own products. I think that they will manage to do that. But on the other hand, it's also about how can I optimize my business as a retailer? How can I, since the consumers are now getting help from the agents, basically, right? How can I, as a company, make better decisions? And that starts with how do I order my products? How do I price my products? How do I market my products? And which products do I actually need? And all these decisions on the retailer side or brand side also have to be optimized more. And there's a lot of optimization room, right? Because all these overstock things, they're a result of bad decisions, basically, in the end.
And that's what I'm wondering though, because even when we think about, because I really want to dive into like the aspect of pricing and challenges around seasonality and where AI can really support them with this. And then of course, inevitably supporting with getting more consumers to purchase their products. But even before that, when we look at these retailers, do they even have the talent internally to do these things? Like how do they get to that point of optimizing to begin with?
Yeah, I think there is this question like how, like if you have that market, right, and you know there's a lot of AI applications, who's actually doing that? And since I think there are just very few big retailers who can afford doing this in-house because you need a bigger team for that, for each of these use cases actually. And the rest is better off, I think, buying that those use cases for making better ordering decisions, for making better pricing decisions, because they're better off focusing on data quality in-house and then buying some of those use cases from external companies.
Okay, so it's better to like kind of purchase the knowledge or buy the knowledge in, most likely for a lot of smaller ones, because building it internally is going to be resource intensive.
You have to be really big if you want to build it yourself.
Okay,
I think
fair. So then, how do we get to the point of decision automation for these retailers? Actually, what does true decision automation actually mean?
Yeah. So so I think for my so the way we are doing this at 7Learnings is really like we're trying to predict your options first. So when you have your pricing options, right, you have a product, you can sell it for 10 different price points, and the question is what happens if you use that price point? What are your sales? What are your return rates? What is going to be your profit? And then there's also this always this aspect of short term. But then also for Black Friday, there's this thing, right? What happens long term, right? So especially if you run these discounts like 20% on everything, it's very likely that you sell your best products during Black Friday. It will look really good. You're making a lot of profit actually during Black Friday, maybe even. But then you have sold all your good products, and then they're not there anymore. You're only stuck with the bad products actually, and then that's also not really optimal towards the season end. Yeah, so I think this is the second aspect, predicting what happens in the short term, but also predicting what happens in the long term. When you have these predictions, then on top you need an optimization technology, because it depends. There's not that one perfect price. You need to say, what do you actually want to do? Do you want to grow fast? Do you want to maximize profit? And then based on what you want to achieve, we would then select the best options for your assortment.
But how does the prediction aspect actually work, especially when it helps them to forecast demand and the outcomes and the returns? Because, like you were saying, most are not really ready with their data. So how does
Yeah.
one, like, okay, I'm a retailer, I'm potentially getting this knowledge in, potentially I've reached out to a company like yours. Was I supposed to have an Excel sheet with all my data already prepared for the last couple of years? Or
Yeah,
how does
it's
that actually
always like
get started with that?
since I've been doing this for 7 years now. I always have this first meeting with this CEO or like somebody
Yeah.
like a senior, say, yeah, we have that data, we all have it, no problem at all, and then it takes us often quite some weeks to actually get it. So yeah, we're asking for transactional data, right?
Mhm.
So you're selling a product, and then what is your shipping cost? Or that is not a easy question. Yeah,
Mhm.
like if you're selling a product, like what did you actually pay for shipping?
Yeah.
What was the return cost? What was the marketing cost on product level? Retailers don't have that kind of data typically.
Okay.
There is a lot of attribution needs to happen from the basket, for example, the basket, because the shipping cost you have on basket level, but you don't have it on product level. So you have to break it down. Marketing cost you have for the marketing campaign, but you not necessarily have it on product level.
Yeah.
So you have to also break it down, and there's a lot of work on that end too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that sounds overwhelming just even hearing about it. But that
Yeah.
also sounds like a great application for AI to support with, hopefully
Yeah.
figuring
Yeah, I
that
think
out.
it's super relevant, yeah, because
Yeah.
if you rank like different applications for AI, right? I mean, how do you do that? I
Mhm.
would just look at the cost, right? Where do you spend your money, right?
Okay.
And then a normal retailer, if you sell on Amazon, I don't know, you're selling something for 100 euro,
Mhm.
maybe the purchase price is like 20 euros of that product, right? And then you're spending 20 to 30 euro on discounts, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's the reality,
Yeah.
right? And then on top, you're spending money on shipping, on returns, which also depend on price. You spend commission costs, which depend on price. So, and then you spend on marketing, right? And then based on that spending, you can kind of rank what is the
Mhm.
most important use case actually, and then actually pricing, marketing, they're really on the top
Mm.
level. I think ordering is also very important. I
Yeah.
would say these are the three most important use cases.
Okay.
And optimizing your chatbot for you can do that, but I wouldn't spend my team on that really.
Okay.
Neither for the brand nor for the retailer. This is something you can buy
Yeah.
because it doesn't make sense. It's just kind of a small amount. It's a small use case. It's not the number one use case.
Okay. That's interesting. So that's also kind of leading me to the next part because I'm kind of curious to understand how can retailers really use decision automation to gain an advantage, and like how much more of an advantage are they gaining when they're using AI? Because I think you've already hinted at the 3 use cases where it works the best.
Yeah.
So I'm also curious to see like how much more effective and
I
are
think
they operating?
there's really gigantic potential.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because like in a way all the pricing issue, or like many of the pricing issues come into the space because you have ordered too much or not
Yeah.
enough, right? Because then if you haven't ordered enough, we have to go up with the price. Um, if you ordered too much, then you have this overstock issue, which drives down the prices. So if you improve your ordering decision, then there's a lot of improvement possible. If you're perfect, I mean, imagine a season where you order exactly the perfect amount of products
Is that
in
possible?
no, it's not
Okay.
possible,
Okay.
because it's difficult, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you just improve it a little bit,
Yeah.
there's a lot of money in this already. Yeah, and retailers know that, and brands know that too. Yeah, but of course it's difficult because you don't really know in advance. Yeah, and that's why
Mm.
these ordering cycles keep getting like we try to order as late as possible, because then you know a little bit more what the trends are going to look like, right?
Okay.
In fashion, for example. Yeah, but even in pricing, so even if you have made your ordering mistakes, you can still cover up a lot of that with pricing. And I would say at least 10% is possible, really,
Oh,
like
wow.
EBIT improvement just with pricing.
Yeah.
And probably another 10% on marketing optimization.
Yeah. And what is it, the current issues around pricing as it stands? Is it really just kind of someone looking at the data and making a guess these days? Like how is it still being done today
It's still really like there is a human. I mean, often people use crawlers, get the competitor prices in, and then a human comes up, sets up rules, how to use that crawling data to make decisions, and then you end up with a human decision.
Okay.
But yeah, I think this AI is much more holistic. It really looks also at the whole time until the season end. How much stock do you have? When is it coming back? So there's no need to have the lowest price in the market if you don't have enough stock, right? Why would you do that, right? You can still sell that product slowly at a high margin. So that kind of easy things still are not happening really in the market today.
Yeah. And I'm kind of curious now to bring both sides together, because on one hand, we talked about the consumer side, where they're using agents to kind of help them already find out the products. Like you said, for your daughter's ballet shoes, helped you find a good quality ballet shoe that was exactly for your need. And then on the other hand, you've got these retailers that are using it, of course, to help predict how much inventory they could already purchase in advance, what's happening seasonality wise, how to price their products accordingly. How do both of these aspects now come together? Especially, does using decision automation to help also determine the price somehow also influence the consumer side of things? Or are we not that far yet? Are these kind of two different worlds that haven't quite merged yet?
You want the optimistic version or like?
Oh, we can start with both. Whichever version you want to give, but I love both.
So I think the optimistic version is that this whole commerce thing becomes just a lot more sustainable, more high quality, because brands will figure out much better what people want to consume, and then consumers, since they kind of put in their utility function a lot more holistically, let's say, or maybe also long term. And then they might actually be automatically driven to more high quality products, which often they are not today, because they are more looking at this the price right now. But so if you're buying a product, like a T-shirt, and you have to throw it away in 3 weeks, for example, then that doesn't really maximize your value in the end, right? So it's sometimes better to spend more money upfront and then get a high quality product. And that often people are not doing it, and it's a mistake basically. So they end up paying more money in the end. And I think that could also go away a little bit, at least.
Yeah.
That's the optimistic version.
The pessimistic version?
The pessimistic version is that it's just going even more crazy with the whole crawling, and there's even more downward pressure on prices. I think the slightly scary version for pure retailers is really essentially what this is going to build is even a master marketplace on top of all the marketplaces which are already there, right? I mean, Amazon is trying to avoid that, obviously, because they want to try to basically, they're not allowing bots to crawl Amazon, actually, because they don't want anybody to sit on top of Amazon, right? They want to be the top, basically, because the one who's on top gets most of the money, basically. But it's still what they're trying to do, and what this is just another marketplace, basically. So we have, in the last 10 years, we have seen a gigantic drive towards more marketplaces, and then that will just kind of accelerate really fast now. Again, it can have this positive aspect. So if you are, for example, an own brand producer for super high quality leather bags, this might be good news for you, because you can be discovered much more easily now, and you have a really good value for money, and people will understand that through these LLMs now, where before you could not afford actually the ads, but now you get this LLM traffic because you have simply very good value for money, and you're maximizing consumer needs basically with that. So that's a positive thing, right? But if you are just reselling the Adidas shoe that everybody else is selling, this is bad news for you, because then you're just competing on price, and that will become a very, very tough spot.
It becomes a tough game
in the next 10 years.
And I think that's while you were speaking, my mind was having this moment of, maybe that's part of the third aspect of the decision making that hasn't really been figured out yet, is the aspect of branding. Because one thing that makes consumers are a bit irrational. Let's just call it
Yeah.
a spade or spade. Consumers are irrational, like you said. Buying the t-shirt that's going to fall apart in 2 weeks just because it's cheaper versus the other one is probably because they didn't really care. They just wanted the white t-shirt because they needed something functional.
Yeah.
But there's also this other aspect of buying an item because you care about how it makes you feel or how it makes you look. And that's a huge aspect of branding. And so now it makes me wonder if we're talking about agentic commerce, essentially just creating a really big marketplace, that it just means that there's going to be a lot of brands or good opportunity for brands to now establish themselves and create this relation to the consumer.
Yeah.
Maybe it's around the quality of the product. Maybe it's around the feeling the consumer gets. And so it might even be changing the entire landscape altogether when it comes to commerce or e-commerce.
Yeah, I
as a
think
whole.
definitely
Yeah.
increases the accessibility of like really like high value for money
Yeah.
products. Yeah, could be a branded product, could be an own brand as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, and it kind of squeezes out this middleman in this retail space.
Yeah.
That space will become even more tough because there's even more optimization on top, basically, that looks for the lowest price, basically.
Yeah. Ooh, exciting.
Yeah.
So then this brings me to, we're here today. It's almost the end of 2025. It's December.
Yeah.
What do you think this time next year we as European consumers and retailers could be expecting to see on the market?
Yeah, I think it's I think we, especially on this part of how large language models make decisions, I think that part will be a lot better, because I think they have just started to work on this. Again, I would call it like maybe 5%. That's where they are right now in this quality. Like, how much are they able to optimize that decision already for the consumer? And I think we will be 40-50% next year already. Because again, there's an unimaginable amount of money behind this in the US, and there will be a lot of development, and we really have to get ready in Europe here. It's like people didn't wake up on this yet. It's really going to be very, very big, and it's the only way of survival basically for a company like OpenAI. So they will put everything they have on this.
Yeah.
And they have a lot.
For sure. And there's a lot of people who are betting on them to survive. So it's going to do...
All the investors, that's the only way out, basically. If they become this big marketplace, which they will try, they can monetize these infrastructure investment. If they are not able to do that, they will go bankrupt.
Yeah. It's so crazy to think about. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting evolution. So that is to what you said. We need to start getting ready today. So your advice, I mean, you're an expert on this topic. What are the top 3 things that retailers can already start doing today to be prepared for this?
Yeah, I would today definitely build this this protocol, or like this API towards the agents. You can already start building that. You're definitely going to need it. Then I would get ready also on my own decisions. Like I would kind of rank my internal decisions in my company. What decisions are we making, and where can I be helped? So that prioritization is super important, because in the end, there might be 100, 200 AI use cases in your company. You cannot work simultaneously on all of them if you have a small team, right? But you have to make a decision. Okay, what are the most important decisions that we're making? And if you know that list, top 3, then you start working on those. And either you try to do it in-house. I would tend to do in-house stuff. I would do, if you're dealing with customer personal data, right? So because you don't want to send your personal data to OpenAI, right? That is something I would avoid. So those are use cases which you might want to do in-house. And then other use cases, I would just try out solutions out there. Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, you said start already building that API that works towards the agents.
Yeah.
The second thing is automate your decisions.
I would say the second thing is prioritize the AI use cases.
Prioritize use cases,
that will be important. You need some focus in this. You can't do it all, I would say.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask, because you had mentioned previously. When you say prioritize the use case, does this mean then the one that costs you the most?
The one where you spend most of your money.
Okay.
Most likely, yeah. Perfect. That's a good way of looking at this. Yeah.
And then starting in-house if there's some consumer data, but then
Yeah.
of course looking externally and what solutions you could be bringing into.
Yeah, exactly.
the
Yeah, you can make a timeline, like when are you starting on
Yeah.
which use case. You can't do everything at the same time because all of these use cases need a lot of data. So you need your in-house team building APIs to these providers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can start working on those use cases and try to, since the consumer will be more and more optimized, try to become more optimized yourself. And I think then you can survive this.
Okay.
That's maybe the positive note in the end.
That is, there's hope. You heard it here
Yeah.
first, folks. So the first 3 things that you need to focus on. And thank you so much for all of these insights. This is such an exciting and riveting time
Yeah.
in the e-commerce world. I'm curious to see what's going to come out in the next 6 months to a year. But thank you for sharing all of these insights and knowledge.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for the invite.
Of course, appreciate it. Awesome. Thanks for listening to Behind the Click. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the podcast and leave us a review. It really helps others discover these stories and helps us to notify you when the next episode goes live. Also, remember to join us at E-commerce Berlin Expo in February to keep the conversation going. We look forward to seeing you there, and until next time.